Second speaker, Mr. Nayeb Hashem. He's an MD. He lives in Vienna and human rights activist. He has followed all Human Rights Council from the beginning, and since the 14th session of the Council, he has been actively participating. So he will speak about free and fair elections. Greetings to all of you. Thanks to Südwind that allowed me to speak about this topic. Thanks to you, the chairman. We started a bit later than planned, and there is a possibility that the special representative on fair and free elections will participate, so I will speak less than planned. So you can see the title of the UN expert who works about democratic improvement, and at this moment he is presenting his report actually to the Council. The issue of free and fair elections is part of his responsibility in the structure, in the UN structure. My departure point on the Iranian elections is about the priority of the international norms and standards on internal domestic law. The right to have free and fair elections is part of the civil and political rights. This is mentioned in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that Iran was one of the countries that participate in the process of its drafting and ratification, and also in the International Covenant on Political and Civil Rights that was actually ratified by the Iranian Parliament in 1965. And also in the Convention against for the elimination of all types of racial discrimination that was ratified before the revolution, and also the Convention on disabled persons that has been adopted under the Islamic Republic. And that guarantees that in the Islamic Republic the conditions for fair and free elections should be actually provided for. There are clearly parts that emphasize the importance of free and fair elections. The UN has structures and standards related to free and fair elections. There is a document on free and fair elections, and also an international declaration that was adopted in 2005. We have a Persian translation of these documents. One of the international organizations is the Interparliamentary Union that has drafted actually a document on free and fair elections in 1994, and it has been adopted consensually, and the Islamic Republic has also ratified it. And the Interparliamentary Union has also a handbook on free and fair elections. It is very, accordingly, it is very clear that free and fair elections, what's the content of the right to free and fair elections with all these rules that I mentioned. So we can, based on these documents, discuss the free and fair elections. And then there is the Security and Cooperation Council in Europe, the European Union, and some NGOs They have actually drawn up programs and plans, and they have worked on criteria of fair and free elections. So free and fair elections has a determined content, and we need a certain number of the realization of certain number of criteria, and not all elections can be called free and fair. Actually, the elections that do not satisfy those criteria, they will only resemble elections. So if we apply those criteria, no elections held in Islamic Republic get even close to the criteria of free and fair elections. They have been to a certain extent competitive elections only, which means that the forces that are more or less they could even be actually gathered in one political party. They have had the right to have a competition among them, and those forces who were outside were certainly not eligible. They had to a certain extent the right to elect, but not to be elected. We can compare this, for example, to the USA. We can see this now in the American society. In one party, we have different candidates, different tendencies. For example, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, among its members, it elects a candidate, and then they present them to the society. So when parts of society are deprived of the right to be elected, the elections become like internal elections in one political party. And this is what I mean by competitive elections, but not free and fair elections. In the elections in Islamic Republic, we know that in most countries that have a plural political party system, pluralist. Many parties can participate in elections, although some of them cannot be elected. And there is a second stage of elections where there is a competition between two parties or two political forces. In Iran, these two stages are also diluted, and we have, as of the beginning, in the second stage, which is competitive. I'm developing all these arguments to say that in a realistic look at politics, those who see their own representatives in the institutions, the parliament or the presidency, they might participate and vote in the elections. We have seen in the second stage in France, for example, once the presidential elections, we had a choice between fascists and right-wing parties. So socialists were at that occasion, they voted for the rightist party. So that is a choice between bad and worse. This might also happen in the forthcoming elections in Iran. So the standards of free and fair elections values the individual votes of the population. We've seen in the protests after the elections in 2009, we heard that people were looking for their votes. They were asking, where is my vote? So protesters were asking, where did my vote go? What happened to my vote? the more we actually promote this value, we will promote the value of individual votes, and the possibility of fraud diminishes. So we have to work on this. We have still a few months before the forthcoming elections. So we must actually organize an electoral project on this basis. I end my speech so that the other speakers and eventually the special representative of the UN can say a few words too.